I'm going to show you how I managed to convince a stranger to give me about $2.4 million for my business fund. Now, for context, I am a licensed investment banker that has been raising capital now for funds, private equity, and real estate now for a very long time. I will tell you that over 80% of capital raises fail, depending on how you measure that. Sometimes you could even see it as even a higher fail rate because there are many that don't get reported on. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what separates those that successfully raise and those that don't. So this is going to be one of the most valuable videos that you can walk through. I'm also going to show you the same exact system that we've used to raise hundreds of millions of dollars from places like crowdfunding, ultra high net worth individuals or high net worth individuals, and institutional investors, think venture capital funds, private equity companies, or just funds in general. And if you look at venture capital firms like Anderson and Horowitz, they review over 4,000 pitches every single year, but only fund about 30. And so that means 99.3% of those companies that end up pitching them will not end up getting funded. So depending on the stats you can look at, it looks very bleak. Now, I want to be clear, this is not something that you can just do overnight. And even though that sounds attractive to say, oh, this is the easiest way to do it, it is a lot of hard work. It is not going to be easy. And of course, there's no guarantees of earnings or outcomes of success. And I spent years dedicated to learning business on the back end. And it was only someone who I met that was allowed, that saw the dedication that I had for years and put myself in the right place to find someone who actually believed in me and was willing to put in money into our deals. And so we're going out and looking for an acquisition, and the way that we structured the deal, people found it very appealing. They thought, this is a very good opportunity that I see lots of potential growth. There's lots of people lots of places that money can go. So why should they put it with you? Now, on the flip side, money is also a commodity, and you can get money from almost anywhere. And so luck is where opportunity meets preparedness. So I was prepared, and I put myself in this situation where I was able to get lucky and meet someone who was willing to put money into this deal. People saw the potential in what I was doing and decided to be able, that they wanted to take the chance. All investments have some kind of risk. So what if raising capital was as simple as raising a text? Well, Elon Musk was. For him, it was. He sent a text with Larry Ellison. This is text that have been released publicly. And he asked any interest in participating in the Twitter deal. And Larry Ellison said yes. And he said, how much? $1 billion or whatever you recommend. So Elon Musk was able to raise capital just by sending text back and forth, and it ended up being a few $1 billion or whatever he suggests. So it really can be that easy. But why is it easy for some and hard for others? It comes down to, is your deal worth it? And so that's one of the things that when people come to me and say, I'm interested in raising, and this is as an investment banker, that's what we do. People ask us, hey, can you help us raise capital? Or can you put together a fund for us? Can you help structure this deal for us, whether it's mergers, acquisitions, when someone goes out and buys a business, which is what all we're doing with our fund. Our thesis, our reason for what we think is a good reason to raise capital is we're going to go find a business and scale it. That's an example of a thesis. And so we've identified companies that we're interested in purchasing, and we're going to put them together, scale them, grow them together, and then end up selling them for more than what we bought them for. And there's tons of structures. There's a video on how to set up a fund. That would be an interesting video. This is mostly what's the difference between the successful and unsuccessful capital raises and all the different ways that you can raise capital and how it's worked well for me. So the common challenges that are faced when trying to raise capital is a lot of people are skeptical. Why should someone go with you? Not only about your personal background, but is this investment worth it in terms of the company? You have so many companies, most companies end up failing. And so raising capital is a very important part of any business, but more so selecting what business you're going to work with, whether you acquire it, so that when we look at an acquisition, are we going to buy it or are we not going to buy it? We have to have good decision making. The most common challenges that people face when trying to raise capital is going to be skepticism of why should they invest with you. That can be answered and countered by having a really high quality team. For example, we went out and found advisors who have advised on some of the largest private equity deals. And because those people have put their branding, their seal of approval on this and said, yes, we're going to help advise this company on operating, that we're willing to take the bet because you have very high quality people. So that was one way that we countered, even though we have a relatively short time in the market compared to companies that have been in business for 40 to 200 years. There's companies that are very old. Why would they go with us? Because they see potential for growth. The next thing that people usually come into is competition. Even if they invest in you, there's no 100% chance that you are going to succeed. The market exists and multiple companies often offer what you are doing. So why would someone want to put their money with you versus someone else? Why is your company different? So even if you have the right people on your team who are advising you, what makes you think that you're going to be different and you're not going to be one of the statistics of most businesses that end up failing? As well as the size of your goal. I'll tell you another thing is if you're in VC or venture capital land, they expect such large returns and most of their businesses end up failing. There are stats that say 70% of venture capital investments end up failing. There are stats that say 90% of venture capitals end up failing. So 9 out of 10 companies that they'll invest into go down. So that means that your company has to make up for all the other companies that they're going to invest in and fail. So if you think, oh, I'm going to make it to maybe 10 or 100 million, that may still not be big enough for some investors. Sometimes they like to see it even larger. So it just really depends on knowing your audience and who we're talking about. So let's talk about the first strategy, which is crowdfunding. And this is going to be used like a normal fund if you're setting up, maybe raising capital for real estate, or if you have what's called a Reg D 506C, which just means you can generally solicit any investor. And so the thing that I found that works really well for this, raise hundreds of millions both in debt and equity. Debt is a loan that you have to pay back. Equity is an investment. They own a portion of this business. A paid ad call funnel is the best way that I've found that can work. Actually, there's a video linked in the comments of how to set that up. And what that is you're running paid ads on a platform like Facebook saying, this is our investment. This is what we're raising capital for. We'll film paid ads. You get to book a call. You get to be put on the email list. And then you maybe get to join a webinar. That's an example of a call funnel. And you get to talk to someone who is a manager at the fund and seeing, are you interested in investing in this fund where you can potentially grow your capital? Now, I'll tell you, a lot of investors, the range that they look for here is 20% to 30%. And I'll tell you why this is an important number here. This is an important number because if you're anything lower than that, at that point, they should just stick it in some kind of mutual fund or some other investment vehicle, because it's going to be too small usually for investors to want to be interested in investing in. And that would be online. If you're raising capital online, you're running paid ads. Anything higher than this, and it's going to be seem unreasonable. So even if you can perform 40% returns, 40% year over year, so this is considered IRR, which is internal rate of return, meaning how much is your money compounding every single year. So if I put in $100 million into this thing, next year I'm expecting this to be worth $120 million in total. And then the next year you compound that so it continues to grow at that rate over the hold period of the fund, which there's actually a deal calculator that I have made for you guys to use, which shows the initial, how much someone would put in versus how much they would get out. So let's say that they put in $1 million and they're going to get out $5 million in 5 years. That's their sale price. They're going to get a 38% IRR return on their money within that 5-year period. That's an example of a deal. So you can go in here and there's a little explainer on how to use this deal calculator for yourselves and see, is your deal worth it? Is it even worth going to market with your deal? So that is crowdfunding, putting it to a call funnel, making sure you have everything set up. Obviously, you need to talk to an attorney, make sure that you get the fund on the back end set up, but that's how you can convince strangers to give you money for your fund. The next part is networking with, now you can use smaller people. For an example, for us, we found an ultra high net worth individuals that was willing to sponsor us. So it's way easier to get one person to agree on the terms of raising capital than it is to get 100 people, generally speaking. Now, for us, we found someone who really believed in us and wanted to work with us on a long period and was going to invest a lot over a long period of time. And so high net worth or ultra high net worth is generally considered over 5, 10, 20 million people who have a very large net worth and have money to invest with you. This person is much, much beyond that. And they don't have a family office. A family office is when you get so rich that your own money needs its office to decide where you're going to put your money. That's what a family office does. And you can have multifamily offices where you have a bunch of rich people that come together, put their money together, and invest it in different things. They could invest in debt. They can hand out loans to people. They can invest in real estate. They can invest in companies. But we found someone who was able to put in for deals. Now, I'll tell you, the way that you find these people, the way that I found these people, is networking. And this would be going to investor conferences that are paid. You can also do things like Harvard. Harvard has very expensive programs that you can go in, and they cost a lot of money. They're like $50,000 to go in these programs. They're in-person programs in Harvard. But the people that you meet there are also people who have spent $50,000 to go in there and learn more about business. That is so that's a great way that you can meet other really rich people and ask them to co-invest with you. The next part is going to be masterminds. I spent a lot of money and time in masterminds myself. And this was through whether it's mostly business masterminds. You can find very niche specific masterminds. So there are masterminds that are focused more around 8-figure businesses, 9-figure businesses. There's masterminds that are focused on maybe the marketing side of things or the operations. If you find something that's niche, if you're in home services, maybe it's a home services mastermind. And then the next part is personal connections. Obviously, I know a guy who raised millions of dollars because his dad was in the investing space and had a hedge fund for decades. And so for him, it was just a phone call. And it was not his dad that invested, but it was his dad that was able to get him in those rooms and raise capital. Next part, I haven't really used this because I'm not much of a car guy, but I know that people do meet in cars, in car meetups. They'll have really fancy cars that they'll go there. And that's a great way to meet rich people because generally rich people have nice cars. Let's talk about the last way that I found. And this is more from institutional investors. And so there's an entire process that goes through institutional investors. Also, if you like this, go ahead and join my community. I have a community of other entrepreneurs, founders that are scaling, and we actually go out and deal syndicate as well. We'll either invest into your deals or we'll join you and help you scale. So if you're interested, click the below. It's absolutely free. Click the below and join that. Institutional investors. So this is generally what I found with cold calling and cold emailing. Those are the two ways that you can get into those. Now, the next part is going to be LinkedIn, which is definitely more of a niche strategy. LinkedIn connections. So you want to see who you're connected with and know if you know anyone who's introed, a warm intro to an investor that you want to go with. Investors can be usually found on lots of data sources. They're publicly available data sources that you can go use to find investors, to be able to different professional investment companies. So A16Z or Andreessen Horowitz, that's the same company, they go by different names, is a venture capital firm that could invest in your deals. But it's important to know what they are looking for. And a lot of these people, they're looking for that, unicorn status. They're looking for very large deals. So you have to make sure that you have the right size and the right type of deal. And you can go and there's relatively inexpensive data sources out there. Don't go and, we spend tens of thousands of dollars for one software every single year just to have access to data of investors. And you can spend much less than that to get data from investors as well as LinkedIn. You can just go to LinkedIn and search Series A investing or Series A investors and just see who you're connected with and have an intro to them. Now, also below, there's a deck that you guys can use yourself. I have an entire document that I built on how to raise capital that goes over the exact email that you send to people, how to set appointments with these investors, how to go over retail, as well as templates. So there's a pitch deck template in here for you to be able to use. And so this is a deck that you can use, just copy and paste for yourself for investors to be able to get investors. And this is based off of what we have seen that has worked really well. If you want to review your deck, we can even do that live as well. So there's a lot of good information inside of the link in comments and the link down there that's going to show you the entire process that I take through for raising capital. But it's going to be a lot of cold emailing, a lot of cold calling, intros if you have them, as well as building a deck that works and converts well for you. So those are the ways that I have found that are the most useful for raising capital from the three different main people that you raise from, which is going to be high net worth individuals or institutional investors. Those are the three core. And those are the most effective ways that we've seen that have been able to raise capital. If this is helpful, then you also might like this video as well.